1827, a law by the Michigan Territory was put into action that required all townships with 50 or more residents to have a school. As the city of Detroit began growing, it became a necessity to create separate districts. As a decade passed, the city had roughly 9,000 residents and approximately 2,000 children in need of a quality education. In 1842, the Detroit Board of Education was crafted to oversee publicly funded schools of Detroit in a more effective manner. As the years passed, the city along with the district continued to grow among each other. In 1896, the city experienced the largest population boom with the rise of the automobile industry. As a result, the district built and opened 88 new schools for thousands of kids in need of an education. With the emergence of newly built schools, the district placed more emphasis on providing a quality education and positive learning spaces through more comfortable classroom sizes. In addition, these new schools were not only placed in the heart of the city, but rather spread throughout the neighboring communities. These new buildings quickly became a neighborhood hub for community gatherings, such as meetings and church on the weekends. Throughout the next 3 decades, immigrants fled to the United States and many found home to Detroit.
With this, enrollment grew 10% every year until roughly 1930, adding 180 more schools to the already booming school district. In 1941, the United States' emergence into World War II led to Detroit becoming the national hub for the production of weaponry, thus continuing to bring people into the city. In 1949, Superintendent Arthur Donendow made it his mission that there would be a school within walking distance for every family. After 124 years of continuous growth, the district faced a new problem. It was beginning to shrink with the decline of Detroit's population. In the years between 1966 and 1971, 15,000 students had left the school district, and tax dollars that had previously gone to Detroit public schools were now going elsewhere. State funding also continued to decrease as the population decreased, thus resulting in less and less enrollment. A new problem in the district had emerged. There were too many seats and not enough students, leaving more than half of the district empty. In the years following, up until 1990, 38 schools within the district had been closed due to the decrease in enrollment and funding. In the 2003-2004 School District Improvement Plan, it was said that, during the 1990s and continuing into the present, declining student enrollment has drained resources away from DPS at an alarming rate. The financial impact for declining enrollment coupled with reduced state funding has created a severe crisis for DPS. The schools closing resulting from the declining enrollment within the district created major problems for education in the city.
I grew up in Detroit and still live in the city, and I attended Detroit Public Schools from the time I was 4 years old in Head Start. Talking about 45,000 students across all of the district. So our responsibility, we are a teaching and learning institution. Our primary responsibility is to make sure that students are receiving an equitable education. When you look at urban settings, obviously some of the demographics that play into the job are as follows. So for Detroit specifically, you're looking at somewhere, basically about 70% of our students are free or reduced lunch. So generally, when you look at free and reduced lunch, that is an indication of poverty. And what I can tell you, in the city of Detroit, there's approximately 67% of the children at or below the age of 18 are living at or below poverty. Some of the struggles that our children face on a daily basis, other students do not have to face. So things like food insecurity. So whether or not you have food at home or you have access to food at your home is an issue for some of our students. Living, families who live in places that don't have water or electricity. How do you do homework when it gets dark if you don't have electricity? We also know that poverty has an impact on how the brain develops, and that students who are living in poverty also experience a high level of stress. Access to transportation is another major issue. So funding, right now the way that funding works in the state is there's a per pupil allocation that's $7,551, or is it $7,511? Okay. It's about $7,500 per student. The state figures out how to provide equitable funding, so actually providing funding based on what students in districts need. We're going to continue to see huge gaps between these cities. You look at, and I want to be clear, because just putting money into a problem does not solve a problem. Be very strategically analyzed to make sure that you're getting an ROI that makes sense. So your return on investment has to be aligned with what your mission is. And if you just put money into a situation and don't look at proven outcomes, research-based practices, you are really putting money into nothing. The future of the city and the future of the school district are intimately connected. So I believe that in order for the city to make a complete comeback, the school district has to make a complete comeback. Everyone should care about our schools and care about the future of our kids. But if you don't have if you don't have school-age children, your attention to the schools may be at a different level. Teaching in Detroit Public Schools was the greatest experience that I have had.
Detroit Public Schools and its future are clearly unknown. The future success of these students has a lot to do with their educators. In saying so, having qualified and reliable teachers in the classroom is a necessity. Students in the classrooms look up to their teachers, and it is imperative that there are good role models present for these children.
In addition to making sure that there are qualified and effective educators in the classroom, it must be ensured that investments and money are carefully handled and put into practices that will benefit the district in its entirety. The future of Detroit has to start with the future of the citizens of Detroit, and ensuring a quality education for the future generations to come does this.